All right, welcome back everyone. My name is Pritesh here with Kaizen Crypto, bringing you another video. So I hope you guys are all doing well. Thank you so much for joining me here today. So I wanted to share with you all in this video my top 5 reasons why ADA will moon in 2020. Now, these are just some of my thoughts. I see a lot of ADA price prediction videos with the anticipation of Shelly coming very soon. I don't normally do price prediction videos. For those of you that do subscribe to the channel, you know that I focus namely on the fundamentals of the Cardano project. But I wanted to share with you all something different, thought I'd change it up a little bit for you guys. So today we're going to be taking a look at my top 5 reasons Cardano will moon in 2020. So before we do get started, I would just like to say if you're new to the channel and if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you do find some value from this content here today, make sure you drop a like for me and let me know any comments or suggestions that you have down in the comments section below. Also, none of the topics that we're talking about here today should be considered as financial advice. This is just my opinion, and everything we're talking about here is for entertainment purposes only. So now let's go ahead and jump right in. To get things started, first and foremost, what many people are anticipating here coming very soon with Cardano is the highly anticipated Shelly release. With this release, we will see Cardano become one of the most decentralized, if not the most decentralized blockchain in the entire crypto space. Now, this has been hugely anticipated from myself personally, as well as many others who are invested in the Cardano project for several years now. Shelly will bring on full decentralization, so we'll see the network shift over from a select few federated nodes such as IOHK, Emergo, the Cardano Foundation, and the blockchain network will be transferred over to the community. So anybody will be able to operate a stake pool within reason. If you are able to meet the requirements needed to get one up and running, you're able to help facilitate in the maintenance of this blockchain network. So now staking will also be available when we see this release. Very highly anticipated to be able to earn passive income just by holding ADA. Now, many people are asking how secure is being able to stake when we see Shelly on mainnet. Well, when you do stake your ADA, essentially you're delegating to a stake pool. So the ADA that you have will never leave your Daedalus wallet or your Yoroi wallet. All of your ADA that you own is within your possession. You're simply delegating it to a stake pool within the user interface of that wallet. There's going to be more content here on this channel talking more about that as we see that happen with the project. So be sure to stay tuned. I definitely want to keep you guys posted as we see those developments happen. Next, we're going to be looking at KAIZN. So smart contracts are going to be brought onto the blockchain very soon after Shelly. Now, both of these milestones are being worked on simultaneously. So what that means is that the developers haven't necessarily said, okay, we're going to focus on one aspect of the project. Once that's completed, we'll move on to the next one. But rather, they're doing this so that each development milestone is happening so that it can fit into place as time goes on. So they've been working on smart contracts, they've been working on scalability, they've been working on governance, all while trying to get everything completed with the roadmap. So with this being the case, we're going to see smart contracts very soon after Shelly. Tools such as Plutus and Marlowe will attract developers to be able to write smart contracts in a very user-friendly environment. Now, this is going to create some serious competition, in my opinion, to Ethereum, being that Cardano will be operating with a fully functioning proof-of-stake protocol. So now with Solidity, we can see a lot of Ethereum developers are actually not too enthused about the user experience for developing smart contracts and dApps with Ethereum. I think that with Plutus and Marlowe, we're going to see a much more seamless experience for these developers, creating a lot of competition for future development. So third is going to be the Fed. Now, this is something that is very relevant, especially nowadays. We can see that central banks around the world, whether it's in the United States, whether it's in Europe, the Bank of Japan, what have you, they are all printing an unlimited amount of paper currency. Now, inevitably, what we see with all of these fiat currencies is that they return to their intrinsic value, which has always been zero. And there are many cases of this around the world. If you look at lesser developed economies, more recently we see with Venezuela. If you look at Weimar Germany after World War I, there's so many things that we've seen in history related to fiat currencies and how they've inevitably failed. We're also seeing, and how it relates to the Fed, that currently interest rates are next to zero, and we are on the border potentially approaching negative interest rates in the United States. If the benchmark interest rate for the United States economy does go into negative territory, that is something that we have never experienced before in the history of the global economy. So I'm sure that is going to have tremendous ripple effects throughout the entire globe. And we'll see, it's completely uncharted territory. We will see what that does to asset prices. Also, we can see with direct corporate bond purchases that the Fed is essentially propping up the stock market. Back in March, when we were experiencing these pandemic fears, pretty much across the board, across a multitude of asset classes, we saw a tremendous decline in valuations. And what we're seeing now with the stock market is somewhat of a V-shaped recovery. Now, something to note is that this V-shaped recovery isn't necessarily because of higher employment or increased GDP, but rather because of the Federal Reserve artificially inflating these asset prices. And a prime example of this is what we're seeing right now with Hertz. Hertz is bankrupt. It's a bankrupt company, and what we saw was that the valuation for the company was higher after it had declared bankruptcy than before it was actually a solvent company. So there is complete disconnect from reality in the stock market. I think it's very evident that people who do own stocks are simply betting on the Federal Reserve to continue their monetary policy. Also, I wanted to touch a little bit on the repo markets. So the repo markets is something that it tends to be pretty complex, and a lot of people aren't really sure as to what it means exactly. So essentially with the repo market, it is a two-way intersection with cash on one side and treasury securities on the other. Essentially both parties on either side are trying to get to the other end. One firm sells securities to a second institution and agrees to purchase back those assets for a higher price by a certain date, typically overnight. And the contract those two parties draw up is known as a repo. So it allows financial institutions to borrow cheaply to fund short-term needs, and there's also typically not much risk involved for either party. Now, what we saw back in 2019 on September 16th, there was a traffic jam, so to speak, that occurred at the intersection between the cash and the securities. So experts say that piles of cash flowed out of the system because corporate tax payments came due, and that happened right as new treasury debt settled onto the market. Financial institutions wanted to borrow cash to purchase those securities, but supply didn't match those demands. So this ultimately caused a cash crunch, and the repo rate soared, reaching as high as 10% on September 17th. So in other words, banks didn't want to part with their cash for anything lower than that rate, and it pushed up the federal funds rate along with it, which was supposed to be trading in a target range between about 2 and 2.25%. So now, how much did the Fed inject? Well, in its first overnight repo market operation since the financial crisis, the New York Fed injected $53 billion worth of cash in exchange for short-term treasury bills. So those purchases then go onto the Fed's balance sheet until they're paid back. And if we couple that with the amount of assets that they are now purchasing, like we were talking about earlier with these direct corporate bond purchases, the Federal Reserve balance sheet is completely skyrocketing, as we can see right now. So with this amount of artificial capital and currency that's being propped up into these markets, savers are being robbed by inflation. Essentially, all this is money printing to no end by these central banks. Next, I want to talk about partnerships. So Cardano and the company that's founded the research behind the project, namely IOHK, and then we see also Emergo and the Cardano Foundation have established themselves as being reputable within the cryptocurrency space. Now, a lot of the companies that we can see from other sectors have also decided that they want to help foster blockchain technology and grow adoption. They've partnered with Cardano, and some of these companies include IBM Research, PwC, MedApps Plus, many governments as well, including the South Korean Trade Association, the Ethiopian government, Georgian government, universities such as the University of Edinburgh and the University of Wyoming. So now, with all this being said, Cardano is intended to bank the unbanked. They're essentially bringing these financial services to these developing economies. That's why we can see here with the Ethiopian government and Georgian government, their prime focus is on Africa. Now, this is a market that I believe is truly ripe for disruption if we were to see the technology of blockchain being integrated into really just basic technology infrastructure such as smartphones, and we can make that available for billions of users. It's really going to pave the way for true adoption for the Cardano blockchain. And lastly, my fifth point, why I believe Cardano will moon in 2020 is nothing more than pure speculation. Now, with Cardano, what makes it unique from other cryptocurrencies is that it's being built using the same rigor as rockets that are being launched into space. So now, with their scientific research, peer-reviewed strategy, they are intending to bring a formal methods approach to blockchain technology. This is ultimately going to pave the way for a superior product down the road. People who are coming into crypto and who are new to the space will see that the price of Bitcoin is very expensive. I'm sure that when we do start to see some price moves with Cardano, we could be potentially looking at a 5-figure plus Bitcoin. Right now we're on the verge of breaking over 10K. And to the average person, seeing the price of one Bitcoin being where it's at, they're going to be looking for cheaper alternatives. Now, with crypto being an emerging asset class, price is a main driving factor of the market. And if we see that people are looking for these cheap coins and they see the technology behind Cardano, what happens when you have a herd mentality, when you see the price starting to go up and up and up and up? You just have all these people looking at Cardano and saying, hey, the price is going up. I want to buy it. How do I get it? So that is what I think we'll see with Cardano in this next cycle. There's going to be a lot of hype and euphoria, just like we've seen with previous cycles. But this time what I see happening is that the speculation will happen not because of empty promises, but rather technology being adopted in the real world. So now that I've shared with you all some of the top reasons why I believe Cardano price is going to appreciate tremendously, let's go ahead and talk about some price predictions. So what can we expect from the price of ADA coming up in the next few months to the next couple years? And again, guys, none of what we're talking about here is financial advice. These are all just my opinions. These numbers are completely arbitrary. Please make sure that you do your own research before doing any type of investing. So what I have for you here in this graphic, I've just got listed the ADA price, and I've got a couple different price targets that we could potentially anticipate in the future. And on the right side, I've got the corresponding market cap for that particular price. As we can see, the current ADA price is just over 8 cents, and currently we're sitting at a market cap of about $2 billion. Now, I think that we're going to touch 10 cents very easily. I think it's probably the next closest level of resistance for the price of ADA. That would put the market cap at about $2.5 billion. So I think that these numbers are very realistic, being that the all-time high price of Cardano was $1.33. I don't think that 20 cents, 50 cents, and even $1 are out of the question. If we look at the dollar price point, we can see that it matches pretty closely with the corresponding $25 billion market cap, which is the current Ethereum market cap. So I do believe that we will be able to cross $1 very easily, especially when we see Shelly staking and smart contracts live on the mainnet. Now, where things get really interesting are once we get past $1. I think that once we do get past that key psychological level, we're going to start to see some exponential gains in terms of price appreciation. So that's where I've given more space in terms of the gaps between the different prices. So we see $1, $2, $3, and then all the way up to $6.65. So right now, the current Bitcoin market cap is sitting at $172 billion. With that market cap, that would put the price of ADA at $6.65. Do I believe that we will hit this price point coming up in the next cycle? I certainly do believe it's possible, especially if we see Bitcoin hit $1 trillion market cap, or even if the total market cap for crypto hits 2 trillion or maybe 3 trillion. I definitely think it's possible for Cardano to make up a very small portion of that at $172 billion. What I think to be a realistic price point in the next cycle, and again guys, just my opinion, I believe that we could anticipate a Cardano price within the next cycle to be anywhere from $3 all the way up to $6 to $7. I think that is very conservative and pretty realistic considering the developments happening down the road. So why do you think ADA will rise? Leave a comment down in the comment section below. Those are just some of my thoughts. I really do hope that you guys enjoyed it and that you did find some value from this video here today. If you haven't already, be sure to drop a like for me. And if you guys are new to the channel and if you want to stay tuned for content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button as well. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.